So I just found something really cool with a blood burner bike, and I'm really surprised I hadn't noticed this yet. And shout out to Tag935. Him and I have been messing around with this bike, and at first I was like, what's the big deal with this bike? Like, is it that great? Yeah, it really is. And we've been testing its limits and messing around with it, and I decided to look into the files on this bike and just get a closer look at it. I have this program where I can pull the model files from the game and get a close-up look at things, and when I looked at the bike, I noticed that there was some language on it. This is just like a raw structure of the bike with no effects or texture on it, and that allowed me to get a really good look at the engine part of the bike and see some pretty large script type language. And I can see why I haven't noticed this yet, because in the game you're usually moving pretty fast, you don't have time to really stop and look at anything, plus this bike is really hard to locate. So I noticed this language on this part of the bike, and there's a big symbol and then there's writing above it and below it, and it's repeated on both sides. When I saw this in the files, I was like, oh, maybe this is all there is, just the symbol and then whatever this writing is. But I kept looking, and it turns out this bike is completely covered in this language. I was looking through the raw texture files, and I saw this one, and it's got a ton of symbols, and it's a pretty long string of the symbols. So I went in to look at the bike to see where these symbols were placed, and yeah, there's symbols on the tailpipe, on the front end, the back end, the wheels, like anywhere there's surface area, there's pretty much symbols there. And you really do have to like stop and almost sniper scope in to see these. But yeah, here's that part I was showing you in the texture files. You can see all those symbols. And then when you kind of look underneath it, there are symbols on the bottom side of it. There's some metal plating and some pipes even here. There's symbols all over it. There's these blade-like structures underneath, and they're covered in the symbols. And I think you kind of do need a sniper to get up on it and really get a good look. And then the inside of the wheel has a bunch of the symbols, and that was the texture file I had seen where it was that long string of symbols. Yeah, that is what's on the inside, and they're like glowing really bright purple. There was one texture file that had all of the symbols that are on the bike, and I cut them out and put them here and organized them to show the sequence, and there are a little over 20 sequences on the bike. They absolutely plastered this bike with this language, and the question is, will we ever be able to read this language and know what it's saying? I feel like we're back in MW3 days when we first got the Apothecant and Keeper language and we had no idea what it said, but slowly they were feeding us more and more information about it, and eventually we were able to translate it. I looked at all the sequences and then found the unique individual symbols and put those together, and it looks like there are 20 unique symbols, and that's almost a full alphabet. And there might be more unique symbols, but some of the texture files were not super clear, and there might be some that I just totally missed. I did do a little bit of a search to see if there were any languages that related to any of these symbols, but nothing came up. It looks like it's something brand new, like the Apothecant and Keeper language was. And I was wondering, like, what would this language be called? And I guess it's going to be maybe some kind of dark ether language. And I don't know if this is anything from maybe Vanguard or if this is brand new. Like, I didn't mess with Vanguard at all, but I know there was some kind of language going on with it, or symbols or something. Maybe you guys know, or is this like completely new to you guys? I wanted to check the portal symbols that we have seen on the walls whenever you trigger 3 symbols and you go teleport somewhere. And these symbols seem a little similar, but they're not. Like, none of these symbols are on the bike. Like, there's nothing that's identical. There is one symbol that is pretty large on the bike and seems to be showcased, and it's this one right here. And this almost gives me like the cursed beast mode vibes from Shadows of Evil. And we may never learn what these symbols mean or what they say, but even if we do, they're probably not going to be groundbreaking information. It's going to be some pretty basic stuff like saying, you know, feeded blood, it's called the blood burner, and just some of the sayings that it says when you're writing it. But it's cool though, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye out to hopefully see more of this language in Modern Warfare Zombies. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you next video.